Ramattra is not a bad hero, but it is a little bit complicated. Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. And I've got to say at the top of this video, I have really been enjoying Overwatch recently because I've just been playing quick play and I've just been playing a bunch of Ramattra and I've been playing Doomfist and whatnot. It is so much more fun in quick play than it is in competitive. And in fact, given the state of competitive, I don't think I'm going to be going back, or at least I'm not going to be rushing back to going queuing comp games because there's just really no point. I want to enjoy playing the game and I want to have fun. Anyway, let's talk about this Ramattra because there's been a ton of discussion all over the place about him being a bit of a mid-hero, about his kit being not very strong, about him being not very strong, which can come as a bit of a shock because we would have thought Ramattra would be this crazy OP hero because, well, Blizzard want to sell battle passes, right? So if he came out and he was incredibly OP, I don't think anyone would be shocked, and we'd all be saying, well, they've only done this because they want to sell the battle pass. However, it hasn't actually turned out like that. So what's going on here with Ramattra? Well, we're going to break this video down to a series of topics that I think will highlight why he's fun to play, but also why he's kind of a bit weak. All right, then. So to begin with, we're going to start and talk about his movement weakness. Now, comp can fix this, but I do want to get on to talking about comps a bit later on in the video. But what we've got with Ramattra is a very clear weakness in this hero, and it is his movement. It is difficult for Ramattra to get into a fight and get out of a fight. This means when Ramattra is in a fight, he is committed. He has to either be kept up by his team or needs to make some sort of incredible play to keep himself alive. This is where the problem starts to arise with the hero because, and this will be a running theme throughout this video, in Overwatch, typically the heroes that just do one thing are more reliable and dependable than other heroes. So in the tank category, if you look at heroes like Sigma has a barrier. Sigma's got sort of short to medium range, let's call it short range, AoE damage, but his barrier is more reliable than the barrier that Ramattra offers. Sigma again suffers from movement speed problems, but Sigma's got Suck, which he can use in conjunction with his barrier to keep himself alive, and Suck is a much better ability than Block. Block being one of Ramattra's abilities, it's not very strong, it's not a very strong tank ability, and you can see where I'm going with this, guys, and we can just keep going through all of the abilities and comparing him to different heroes. Look at Roadhog. Roadhog's a very one-dimensional tank with a one-shot. Now, I honestly believe that Roadhog is causing problems and probably will get nerfed at some point because having a tank hero that can just kill people is incredibly powerful. Ramattra can kill people if he catches them out of position, if he makes a good play. This is the same for other tanks, like, I don't know, Reinhardt, for example. In fact, you could say that Ramattra is kind of this amalgamation between Sigma and Reinhardt in the way that he plays, but without Reinhardt's movement. Today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, and today I want to talk to you about the Doom Tower. The huge Doom Tower is basically a giant prison. The Arbiter fought a pack of really nasty bad guys a long time ago. The regular Doom Tower floors tend to be pretty easy to deal with if you've just got a strong team, but the bosses are really tough, and you need some serious specialists if you're going to beat them. You'll generally want ways to remove debuffs, so you'll also want pretty high resistance. Lots of Doom Tower bosses ignore block debuffs, and they can do real nasty stuff to your champions, like draining their turn meters or stripping their buffs. A couple of bosses need specific mechanics to beat them, like the Scarab King. He takes barely any damage unless you reduce his max HP, and if you attack him without a shield buff, he'll wreck your whole team really fast. Raid's got something extra special happening now. They've released a legendary champion based off MMA and pro wrestling legend Ronda Rousey. Yes, that's Ronda Rousey. You can get her for free now. All you need to do is play for 7 days and you will get this legendary champion. Just enter the promo code RAIDRONDA in-game and all these goodies can be yours. Also, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get your exclusive rewards in Raid right now. So if you haven't started playing Raid yet, well then click my link in the video description or scan my QR code here on the screen and you'll get a unique bonuses worth $30. We're talking a free epic champion, Vergis, 200,000 silver, 1 energy refill and 1 XP boost, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon awesome champions as soon as you get in game. All this treasure will be waiting for you here, available for 30 days for new players only. Once again, thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. So the issue with the movement weakness is pretty much just that. he can't get into a fight without assistance, and he can't get out of a fight without assistance. And that means when he's in a fight, when he's using his abilities, if you keep him at range, if you pile damage into him, he finds it very difficult to actually do anything. And a lot of the time, he will end up just being killed. Or, of course, if the enemy team have got a Roadhog, they'll just hook him and kill him. Yeah. Let's talk about Ravenous Vortex, because this is this ability is very, very weird. This is his worst ability. Now, I thought this would be one of his strongest abilities, but by far, it is his worst ability. So the issue with this is it's trying to do too many things. So it does a little piddly amount of damage. It pulls targets down from out of the sky, although it's not that high. It's not like it's pulling them from right in the sky from the skybox. It's actually, they have to be kind of close to it. It's maybe not that great for it. And it slows enemies down. So all this actually ends up being is a worse version of Sojourn's slow damage thing. It's literally just a worse version of that. Now, I think this needs to be looked at because you're not using it in the context I think Blizzard wanted us to use it, or at least I'm definitely not. I'm not using this to catch people out of position and slow them down and kill them, because it doesn't slow them down enough. It doesn't do enough damage to them to kill them. So it's in this weird place where it's not really doing either or. So the question is, should this just be damage, or should this just be a slow? I don't think it should be doing both, Blizzard. What I would look at here is probably the slow component. The damage component, okay, that would be fine if it did a bit more damage. But Ramattra and CC and tanks having crowd control, I think that's kind of okay. And if it's a bit more of a slow effect and we lose the damage and even lose the pull down from out of the sky, I think we'd be fine with it. And then it'd become a much more usable ability. Because then think about what this would do. It would fill the gap between Ramattra suffering one of his major weakness, that is his movement. Because if he can slow other people down, well, then he can get to them. So that would be a massive, well, it would be a buff for the hero. Block. Okay, block is a really... Block is not great. The thing with block is I've tended to use this when I'm in a dire situation. I'd rather be in the Omnic form, firing the primary fire, trying to do damage at people, even at close range. However, if I'm in a massive brawl and I'm taking a bunch of damage, then I will pop block, but I won't stand there with block up for the duration. I'll try to block and then get back into doing damage, because if you're not doing damage, the issue you've got with block is you're just standing there as a big target, and you are a massive target as Ramattra, and the whole enemy team is shooting you. And yeah, okay, you're blocking, you're absorbing damage, but your countdown is ticking away. Those 8 seconds you get to be in Nemesis form are just depleting, and once they're gone, you're in the Omnic form, you're caught out. You need to hope that your barrier is ready to go again, because if it's not, you're probably going to get instantly killed, or if you've got Annihilation ready to pop, to then go straight back into the Nemesis form. But the issue with the block is you're not using it as a tank ability. I think that's, again, another weird thing. So you get into a fight, and it's like, okay, I'm going to block and protect my team, only you're not, because it's a Doomfist block, although it's a worse version of Doomfist block, because, well, you don't get any benefit from blocking apart from the damage reduction. It doesn't power you up. It doesn't do anything to you, really. It just stops you from dying. So this is where the idea that his block is only really being used if spike damage is coming into you. Oh, I'm in the middle of an enemy ultimate. I'll use block. Oh, Hanzo arrow's coming towards me. Dragon strike. So I'm going to block. It's like that kind of usage. But I have started to kind of get into the gameplay flow of using this a little bit when I'm in Nemesis form, coming back out and trying to do damage. Now, the power with Nemesis form is the pummel ability, so the melee attack with the sort of short range energy burst is really, really good, because it goes through the tank, it goes through targets. So if you've got an enemy Ramattra in your face, you're punching through him, but you're hitting targets behind him, and it can catch them off guard, and you can actually get some pretty cheeky kills doing that. But yeah, block, it's almost like, well, I'm going to use block now because, well, I hope I don't die. It's just not a very good ability. I think in terms of changes to block, what I'd probably look at doing is, for a start, if you get interrupted, allow you to just instantly start blocking again after it, not having to go through the whole sort of animation to bring the block back up. Also, I would make him probably immune to being interrupted while he's got block active, make him immune to any kind of crowd control or anything like that, because then it would add a bit more value to it. Because remember, his problem is he's got no movement, literally zero movement ability. So when he's blocking, he slows down even more, and then it's like, well, he's just a big target. So I think some helps in that kind of way would, or some buffs rather, would probably help quite a bit. Annihilation. This is the greatest ultimate in overtime in Overwatch, because guess what happens in overtime? The enemy have got a fight on the point, and this means they're coming to you. This means your weakness of your movement is gone. So you pop your Annihilation, and then you just go and have fun with Ramattra. And okay, it's not incredibly massive AoE damage when it hits, well, it's single target damage, isn't it, depending on who's in the area, but it attaches to a target, let's say, but it'll attach to everybody if they're all near you, and it'll just do damage over time to them. It's not tons, but when it's combined with your pummel damage, it actually is pretty good. So on squishies, you'll just kill them. Lucio, he can just forget about trying to contest a point now, you'll just kill him. Same goes for Ball as well, but basically the squishy targets, you can just delete them with this ultimate. So it is massively powerful. But it also works in close areas as well. So if you can catch an enemy team sort of in a close environment, close quarters fighting, and you use it, you'll get a lot of value. If you pop it on a point, again in overtime, where a team is fighting all over the point, you'll get a ton of value. But more often than not, you will end up in situations where you use this, and you've got 3 seconds and it's over, and it doesn't do anything. I have used it, and you would have seen in these gameplay clips in the background, to kill Genjis and kill people near to me who I'm worried that might escape. And I'm trying to do damage to them. They get out of range of my actual primary fire, and I quickly pop Annihilate, hoping that it attaches onto them and does a bit of damage to them, and maybe I can catch up with them or whatever. But if it just does enough damage to them to kill them, then in my book, it's like, well, okay, I've got some return, some value from that. But yeah, it's a really weird ultimate. It's just really, really good in overtime. And, well, yeah, that's about it, really. Ramattra's shield is it's a budget Sigma. That's the best way to look at it. It functions like a Mei wall in the way you deploy it, but you can see through it, and it's a 1000 HP barrier that more often than not won't get destroyed, will just dissipate because it only lasts for a few seconds. It's okay, and it's used in conjunction with your primary fire. It can be okay. It's good for poke. You can use it and deploy it to save people at range, and there will be clutch moments where you'll see this being used. But the issue, again, is it's just a worse Sigma barrier. And again, this goes back to the whole theme of this video. Whereas if you were playing Sigma instead of Ramattra and needed a barrier, well, then Sigma's barrier would be better in a lot of ways. Okay, it's not as fast to deploy, but especially at range. But it's just better. And again, this is a problem. And this is one of the issues with the hero. His kit is borrowed from pretty much 5 or 6 different heroes in the game. And so he doesn't really feel super unique in that way. His primary fire is pretty unique, though, I would argue. And his ultimate is, you know, kind of the inverse of a Transcendence, which I think is what they're going for, the sort of yin-yang with Zenyatta. But yeah, it's just, the shield's okay. But again, it's one of those things that you're using. So as you've got the flow of Ramattra, you're maybe dropping a shield down, going for primary fire, and then as the shield dissipates, then you're going into your Nemesis form. Maybe you get some close range hits, maybe you don't, maybe you need to block, and then by the time that finishes, or maybe you cancel it because you want to go back into, Omnic form to use Void Accelerator at range, but then hopefully a few seconds later your barrier's back up and you can use that again. And you're sort of just going through the motions with the hero, and it is really fun gameplay, don't get me wrong, it is. But again, I think the issue is there's just other heroes with a mechanic that you're playing or using, and they're just better than Ramattra is. So let's talk about his dependency on comp. This is where Ramattra can be massively powerful. So if the enemy team, for some reason, don't actually focus fire you, then you'll live, right? Because, well, no one's shooting you. That goes without saying. The issue is, though, if your team isn't pouring resources into you to keep you alive, then you are probably going to die in a lot of the engagements, which doesn't feel great. You often feel almost lost at sea. It's like, I'm in a fight, oh, I hope I get healing. I'm turning around trying to block, oh no, I'm dead. Oh dear. Now, why does it become comp dependent? Well, if you've got a Lucio, oh, he loves a Lucio, because Lucio is going to get you into the fight. Lucio is also going to heal you in the fight as well, because he's probably going to be up there with you as you're brawling with the enemy team. And if you've got a sort of rushdown style comp, you're going to love it, right? Because it's brawly, you're in there, you've got Lucio, he's keeping you alive. You know, even if you've got a Kiriko as well with the Lucio, you're going to love that, because Kiriko, when she pops her ultimate, again, that's going to get rid of a lot of your weaknesses. But Kiriko is just great healing anyway. And Mercy can work really, really well with Ramattra. But if you end up in a scenario where you've got, let's say, an Ana and a Zen, and they're not really able to get rid of any of your weaknesses beyond trying to pile healing into you, especially the Ana, then you end up in a bad place, because the Lucio with the speed boost means that if you are in a bad position and he is on speed, well, wouldn't we all like to be on speed? Anyway, if he's on speed, then you can reposition quickly. Also, he can get you into a fight quicker. So I think the issue with Ramattra is he is very comp dependent, and that is a pretty big weakness. But when you've got the right comp, I think he can be really fun to play. So what's the conclusion here with Ramattra? Okay, let's bring this all back, and let's say, number one, incredibly designed hero. He looks fantastic. Voice acting incredible. Voice lines incredible. Everything about him is incredible. The way his abilities look, bar the Void Accelerator, which I think is a really weird looking attack. I know what they're going for. The sort of, he's firing little nanobots at people to kill them. I think they call them nanites. That's fine, but it makes an odd noise as well. But it's a bit weird, that is. I wish it looked a bit different. Apart from that, though, everything with this hero looks incredible. Feels fun to pilot. Feels very fun to play. His gameplay loop, I think, is really good. Really fun, really enjoyable. But this is where the issues start to come in. When we look at Ramattra in the grand scheme of the game, we see a hero that has a number of abilities that other heroes have got. But other heroes have got these abilities. Well, they're just better. So you look at his block. You've got Doomfist with a better block. Also, Doomfist has got a lot of mobility. Doomfist has got a ton more damage now. So Doomfist is just more deadly. If we take his damage in sort of a vacuum and go, oh, well, let's look at a Roadhog. A Roadhog does a lot more damage. A Roadhog also can just counter Ramattra, can just hook him and destroy him. A Roadhog has also got a heal, so he's self-sufficient. So in essence, can take a lot more damage than a Ramattra can, as crazy as that sounds. If we look at his barrier, Sigma has a better barrier. So if you need a barrier or you want to play some sort of barrier comp, just play Sigma. Sigma's also got better self-sustain. His suck is way better because it gives him added shields over health. Also, his ultimate is better, I would argue, in almost every single scenario, unless it's overtime. But then again, Sigma's ultimate's okay in overtime as well. We've all been there when Sigma's pulled everyone off the payload and then that's it. Big, massive C9, although not really, because Sigma's killed you with an ability, but at least moves you off the payload. What else can we look at? We can look at his Ravenous Vortex and go, well, okay, well, this isn't a tank, but Sojan's got literally a better version of this. It's got a better slow and a better... Well, I think it might be the same slow, you know, but it does more damage and it's easier to deploy. There's all these problems with Ramattra, and yeah, I think you look at his ultimate, and again, like I said, very good in overtime, very good in certain scenarios. But the thing is here, guys, he's fun to play. And I think, right, if you take Ramattra and then you look at Roadhog and you change that hero, and maybe you make changes to other heroes, there's a world where Ramattra suddenly becomes a really good hero. So it is really weird to me that we do have this hero in the game at this point, because in some ways, you know, I'd argue in a lot of ways, Ramattra feels like an old Overwatch 1 hero. And you know what? Maybe he is. Alright guys, thank you for listening and watching the video. I've been Stylosa. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below what you think about Ramattra. I certainly think people saying that he's absolutely terrible are blowing things out of proportion. He's not terrible. He is really fun to play. And I've had a ton of fun playing him over the last few days. And I suppose at the end of the day, that's all that really matters, right? Alright guys, thank you. And I will catch you lovely lot on the next one. Remember, do leave a comment below and subscribe to the channel. It helps an absolute ton. And I'll catch you lovely lot on the next one. See you soon.